Hey guys, what's up? I am Nikhil from Dope Motions, and in this video I will show you how to create a dynamic logo animation inside of After Effects using shape layers. This is going to be a 20-minute long video, so you can call it a mini course as we will be covering a lot of different techniques, and by the end of this video I will also share some tips and tricks that will definitely improve your motion graphics game for sure. But before we start, make sure to subscribe to the channel and like this video as this will motivate me to create more such amazing videos for you. So without any further ado, let's jump straight into After Effects and get started. Alright guys, so here we are in After Effects. Let's start by creating a new composition. Let's call this render as our main render comp. I'm going with 2560 with 1440. You can of course go with full HD and 4K if you want to. 30 FPS and 10 seconds long duration. Press OK. Let's create another new composition. This is going to be our logo placeholder. So let's type in logo and press OK. Then here I have an Adidas logo. You can of course use any logo that you want. I'll go into effects and presets and search for fill effect. Let's add some color on this. So for now I'll go with a nice white color. Now I want to separate the logo from the text. So I'm going to simply create a mask over this like so. And then I can select these points and using the arrows I'll just move the mask points, and there you have your logo. I'll align this into the center. Okay, so there we have our logo. Now let's create another new composition and I'm going to call this line and press OK. Drag the logo composition inside, and then I'm going to start drawing some strokes. Now feel free to experiment with this particular technique. You can create number of different strokes however that you want. I'm going to select the pen tool and make sure the fill is set to none. So click on fill and set this to none, press OK, and I'll set the stroke to 10 pixels. That is fine. And right over here I'm going to hold shift and create a line like so. All right, and then I'll drag this line out of my frame holding shift. There you go. Okay, that is perfect. Now let's animate this. So to do that, I'll jump into the properties of the shape layer, go into add and add a trim path. Let's animate the trim path. So now I'll press Ctrl Shift H to hide the control layers so we can see the line properly, and then we can animate the start and the end property. So I'll set the start property to 100, create a keyframe. Let's go to 1 second and set this to 0. Then go right here at 10 frames, create a keyframe on the end property, go to 1 second and 10 frames, and then set this to 0. So now when we preview this, we have a line which looks something like this. Pretty simple, right? Now I'll change the duration of this by adjusting the keyframe a little bit. So maybe somewhere on there should be fine. All right, let's move this keyframe a bit forward in time in order to increase the line size or the length, I think. Yeah. Okay, let's adjust this a little bit, trying to find that perfect spot. Yeah, that is looking good. Now I'll select the keyframes and press F9 to ease them. Then go into the graph editor and I'm going to create a peak in the center of this. You can use a free script called keyframe wingman, but for people who are very new to After Effects, let's not go into scripts and focus in the graph editor. Now if your graph editor looks different, make sure you right click inside the graph editor and select edit speed graph, and then I'll select the point and drag this like so, holding shift to create kind of a peak. So somewhere around 80-81% is fine. Same thing I'm going to do right here. You can see the increments in the yellow box, so let's go to around 80%. Same right here. I'll drag this to around 80. Yep. So now when we preview this, we have something like this. So it has a little bit of anticipation which looks very nice. So this is our first line or first shape layer, whatever that you want to call it. And using the same technique, I can create multiple different lines. So what I can do is simply select this and press Ctrl D to duplicate it. All right. And then select the pen tool again, and let's create a shape like so. All right, and then I'll extend the shape a little bit out of the frame, make sure it's still overlapping our logo. Okay, we need to adjust this one a little bit. All right, so now when we preview this, we have something like this. All right, now I can go into the shape layer 2 and we should have two shapes. One is the first one, so I can delete that. Now let's duplicate this again, Control D, and create a different shape. So this time I'm gonna go right over here at the top, and let's create a line like this, and then select the selection tool. Let's drag it like so. Okay, so now when we preview this, let's see. Yep, I think that is looking quite nice. Now let's go ahead and add some multiple shapes. So I'll select this one, press Ctrl D to duplicate it, and I'll select the anchor point and move it right over here and move this maybe somewhere around there. Okay, let's duplicate this one more time, press Ctrl D and move this on the, oh, move this right here. So now when we preview this, we have something like this. Press Ctrl Shift H so we can hide that. Now the lines, the three lines that we have right here, let me change the color of these three so that you can get a better idea. So now you can see much more properly. I'll select these three lines, also change the color to maybe red. Okay, so now these lines, I want them to appear from bottom to top. So what I can do is go right here into the shape properties, and in the path you will see this icon. So I'm going to just click on this and it's going to reverse the animation. Not reverse the animation, basically change the point from where the lines are getting animated. Same for this one, and then same for this one as well. So now when we preview this, we have something like this, which is looking really nice, I think. Okay, I can select all the lines and let's give them a single color. So let's keep it something like red for now. Then let's select the logo, bring it on the top, go into layer and auto trace, keep the settings at default and press OK. So it's going to create a mask out of our logo, and then go into effects and presets and search for an effect called stroke, which is an inbuilt effect in After Effects. Double click to apply that. Let's change the paint style to on transparent, and we can again press Ctrl Shift H to hide the control layer so we can see everything properly. Now because our logo have three masks, check the all mask button. So now we have strokes over all the different masks. And then let's increase the brush size to around 5, change the brush hardness to 100, and then we can animate the start and the end property just like we did for trim paths. So I'll set this to 100, go at the very start, create a keyframe, go to 1 second, set this to 0, press U so we can see the keyframes here. And let's zoom in into our timeline, go to 10 frames, create a keyframe on the end property, go to 1 second, 10 frames, and set this to 0. So now if I press U, we can see, I'll solo this up so we can see we have this really nice animation. Pretty cool. I can again select the keyframes and press F9 to ease them and get rid of the mask keyframes. We don't need that. And then select them. Again, I'll jump into the graph editor and create a peak just like we did before. I'll set the influence to around 80 again, and this one to 80 as well. So now we have something like this. Pretty cool. Maybe we can increase the duration a little bit. Okay, that is looking much better. Now to make them look a bit more complex and cool, what we can do is displace them in time. So let's move every layer by 5 frames. So let's see how it looks. At 15, this one at 20, and this one at 20 as well. So now we have the first, second, third, and fourth, as you can see. But I think I need the fourth one before. I think that would look much cooler in this case. Yep, you can see this looks much better, and maybe bring this to 15 frame. Let's see. Yep, I think that is looking really cool. All right. Now let's create a new composition and call this fractals. Press Ctrl Y to create a new solid. We can rename it whatever that we want. Go into effects and presets, search for fractal noise. Double click to apply that. Set the noise type to block and bring down the complexity to 1. Let's go into the contrast and increase this a little bit, like somewhere around 170 should be fine. Go into the transform and let's increase this to 150. Then I'm going to rotate this by 45 degrees and let's animate the evolution. So hold Alt and click on the stopwatch and add a very simple expression of time times 200. So it's going to keep on evoluting or animating it, not evoluting, I don't think that's even a word. So it's going to keep on animating the evolution 200 times every 1 second. Okay. So this fractal layer that we have created will act as a nice texture onto our lines and make them look more detailed and interesting. Now let's create another new composition called this animation. Okay, I'll drag the line composition here. So here we have the lines. And then I will add the fractal on top. Now because I'm working on After Effects 2023, the track matte option is a bit different as compared to the older version. In older version, if I duplicate this composition, I will need to create a track matte by duplicating the fractal composition for every single composition that I duplicated. But in a newer version, I can just use one single layer and use it as a luma matte or track matte on every other layer or any layer that I want in that particular composition. So I'll change the color for now to something like this. I'll hide this and let's change the track matte of this to fractal and set this to luma matte. So now right off the bat, you can see we get this really interesting texture into our lines, which looks really cool. So now all I have to do is duplicate this. So press Ctrl D to duplicate it. And as you can see, we don't need to duplicate the fractal. It's already going to take the luma matte from this fractal that we created. And let's move this forward by maybe 5 or 10 frames. And then I can add a different color on this. So let's go into effects and presets, search for fill effect. Let's add the color. Let's go with something like a nice purple tone, maybe something like that. So now as you can see, we get this really cool look. I can duplicate this one more time, press Ctrl D, move this to 10 frames, and let's give it something maybe like an orange. Duplicate this one more time. This time I'm going to go with a nice. So as you can see, we can duplicate it as many times as we want and make it look even more complex. So really cool. And finally, one last time, Ctrl D. And this time let's go with maybe white. I think white should be fine. Okay. And on this, I don't want to use any track matte, so I'll set this to no matte. So now finally we have a final stroke of white that doesn't have any texture. And it's going to reveal our logo. So I can drag the logo composition on top of everything. There we have it. So somewhere around there. Let's go maybe at 1 second. And I'm going to add a very simple flicker animation for our logo. So what I'm going to do is press T to bring down the opacity, create a keyframe, set this to 0. Let's go to somewhere around maybe 15 frames. I think 10 frames should be fine. Set this to 100. Select the keyframes, hold Shift and Alt and click on this keyframe to switch this keyframe to hold keyframe. And then I'll go right here and let's add a value of maybe something like 50. Go 1 frame forward, bring that down. Go 1 frame forward, bring that up. And do the same exact process. So now when we preview this, we have this nice flicker reveal, which looks really cool, by the way. I'll move this maybe a bit more forward in time, somewhere on there. Okay. So there we have our base reveal for the logo and it's looking really cool. And the best part about this kind of technique is that whatever logo that you use, it's going to look different because now Adidas logo has this 3 mountains. But if you use, let's say, a McDonald's logo, the lines will be different, the complete look and feel will be different. So it's really interesting to use this technique on and try it out on number of different logos, I think. Now, one more thing that we can do here, and it's optional, is that we can add some glows onto this. So I can create a new adjustment layer, type in glow, and I can use a plugin called Deep Glow. And in case if you don't have this plugin, you don't need to do this step, but because I have it, and I definitely recommend you to go ahead and check out this plugin. It's not a sponsored video, it's just I love this plugin because this plugin helps to create some really interesting glows, and they look really nice, by the way, as you can see. Pretty cool. Let's set this to 0.3 maybe. Yeah. So it enhances the complete effect. Now I don't want glow onto our logo, so I'll bring this layer below this, and there we have it. Pretty cool. Also on the logo, I'll jump into this, and instead of using a fill, I'll use a gradient ramp. So let's type in gradient. Just type in ramp maybe. Yeah. And then swap the colors. I'll move this somewhere around there. So this just adds a little bit of more depth to the logo. So it looks much better, I think. Pretty nice. Now finally, let's bring everything together into our main render composition. First of all, let's add a background. So I'll press Ctrl Y, call this BG for background. Okay. Then let's add the animation composition on top, and I'm going to turn this into a 3D layer so that we can add some nice camera movement to this. Let's right click and create a new camera. I'm going to set this to one node camera with a 35mm lens and press OK. Let's create a new null object, and I'm going to call this call this cam control, and then turn this into a 3D layer and parent the camera to this cam control or the null object that we just created. If in case if you don't see this parent and link option, you can right click right here, go into columns and make sure to enable parent and link. So there we go. So now let's go at the maybe somewhere around there so we can see the animation that's happening. Let's select the cam control layer, and what I'm going to do is press R to bring down the rotation properties, and let's rotate this a little bit like so, and also the X rotation as well to somewhere around maybe 30, I think. Should be fine. Yeah. Press S to bring down the scale property, and let's bring this closer like so. I'll move the position maybe somewhere around there. Then go into the camera properties or the camera options and turn on depth of field. Let's increase the aperture to around 300 and the blur to 300 as well. I think a bit more like 400. Yeah. So now you can see if we adjust the focus distance, we can see where our camera is focused. So right now it's somewhere around here. So that is fine. Okay, that is looking fine for now. Let's adjust this a little bit right here. Okay. All right. Then let's create a keyframe on the focus distance and then go into the cam control, press R again, create a keyframe on the X and Y rotation, press S and create a keyframe on the scale as well. So we can press U and we can see all the keyframes that we have created. Let's keyframe the position as well in case if we need that. Then I'll go to somewhere around there, maybe 2 seconds and 15 frames, and bring down the scale to 100, rotate them back to 0, and adjust the position as well. So I'll just adjust the position. All right. And now to adjust the focus distance of the camera, I can switch this to top view, and this is our layer where it is. So this is our layer. Let's select the camera, and the focus distance of the camera is right here. So I'll adjust the focus distance and place it onto our layer. So now everything is properly in focus. So now we have something like this. Now let's select all the keyframes, press F9 to easy ease them, go into the graph editor, and I'm going to drag this handle like so, and this one right here. So now when you preview this, you have something like this. It's looking very nice. Now I also want to add a secondary animation of zoom out on this. So to do that, what we can do is right click and create a new null object, call this zoom, make it 3D, and then parent the cam control null object to the zoom one. And then we can basically animate the scaling of this. So I'll go right here, create a keyframe, go to all the way up to 5 seconds, and let's zoom out this. So now we have something like this. So it keeps on zooming out like that. Pretty cool. I think it's looking very nice. And again, feel free to play around with the camera movements. Now there are a couple of things that we need to do to finalize or complete this animation. Number one is whenever we are using glows, we will get a lot of color bendings. I'm not seeing any color bendings right here, but because of the YouTube compression, you may be seeing a little bit here. So to fix this, first of all, hold Alt and click on this 8 BPC to switch to 16 BPC. It's going to make the glows much more nicer and enhance the overall colors of this. Then I'll create a new adjustment layer, call this noise, and let's add some noise on this. Go into effects and presets. Let's set the noise amount around 3%, should be fine, and add some curves as well. Let's put the noise below the curves. So just to make the glow a bit more tighter, I think, and the colors and the contrast, increase the contrast of the colors. So this is looking very nice. Let's preview the complete animation. And boom, there you go. I think it's looking pretty damn cool. And finally, to create a fade out effect, I'm gonna show you a really cool trick to do that. So let's create another new composition, not a composition actually, an adjustment layer. Call this fade. Go into effects and presets and search for, I think it was gradient wipe. Yep. Set the transition softness to 50%. I'll go to around 14 seconds and 15 frames, create a keyframe on the transition completion, go to 5 seconds and set this to 100. So now we have this really nice fade out. Instead of creating those boring black fade out, you can create this kind of a really nice fade out. And in the final animation, I also added some text, but you get the idea. It's very basic thing to do because already this tutorial is like maybe a half an hour long. So yeah. And again, you can download the free project file from the link in the description below. So that is how you can create this really dynamic looking logo animation inside of After Effects. And you saw it's really simple. It's a bit time consuming to create the strokes and animating it, but once it's done, it looks absolutely gorgeous. So that is a wrap for today, guys. If you want to learn to create more such amazing logo reveal animations, then you should check out my logo animation playlist, which has over 40 plus in-depth logo animation tutorials that you can binge watch right now. Link is in the description. You can also follow me on Instagram at dope.motions and Nikhil Pawar. And I will see you guys in the next video. Till then, take care and always stay raw, stay creative. Peace out.